and somebody walked in, they're like, that's bad for your health, sir, right? That's the equivalent of having any criticism whatsoever of anything relating to this pardon. If we can get into the details of the prosecution, very clearly it is politically motivated. It doesn't hold a candle to the insane pardons that Trump has done so far that are all indefensible, or at least all the ones that are involved with him are totally and completely indefensible. But the most important thing is to remember always, okay, that this conversation and the one that we're about to have is a complete and utter waste of time. The only reason why this conversation is going to happen is because Democrats like to do this thing where we go and we like whip ourselves because of whatever. Republicans don't give a about any of this. They laugh at these conversations. They have no morals. They have no values. They have no character. They have no support of U.S. institutions, the Constitution, anything like that. And they openly laugh at all of it. And we'll get into all of that sure in this conversation as well. So
I'm sure we will. Thanks for being here. And it should be fun. SFO, go ahead. What you got for us?
Basically, I'd like to live in your world, counterpoints. That's the ideal, but we don't live there. It's as simple as that. Like, if you have a standard and one side is not adhering to the standard, you're simply just tying one hand behind your back as you fight them.
So I think that the basic two ways that I think about this is essentially there's one part of this which is about the direct impact on justice. I think the direct impact on justice in the cases of these Hunter Biden situations, I think is bad. And then the second question is whether or not it's good for the Democratic Party and for democratic norms more generally. In terms of the second part, which I think is probably where we're going to keep most of this conversation, hopefully, I think it's almost certainly bad. I think that we could recognize certainly that obviously a lot of the things that Republicans have been doing are a lot worse. But we can still also recognize that this is bad and that the way that you manage to sort of like get back to those norms is not by throwing them out. Destiny mentioned this idea of like the bourbon at the last moment before you die. It is true that Biden is on his last legs and is about to die, both like electorally and also in his case, literally. But I don't think that it's the same because I don't think that this is something that he's doing just as a father or just as a person who is individually doing this. He is a representative of both democratic norms. He is the sitting president of the United States. And I think that it's very different to do something that might be vaguely, I guess, bad on the way out of life than to do something that's vaguely bad and actually, in this case, significantly bad on the way out of the presidency, which is a public office.
Okay, thanks for being here. We'll give you a little more time, Hutch, and we'll go to Tuna Chip, and we'll let Hutch be the anchor here. Tuna Chip, thoughts?
Yeah, basically, I'm not happy about the decision from Biden. It feels a little scorched earth. It feels a little bit like a concession to a new status quo where instead of fighting against the degradation of certain principles, we're just sort of like matching the other party where they are. It doesn't, I don't like the whataboutism. I don't like the shift. All the same, I understand why a person would take the defense because it's a bit like getting punched in the face and not fighting back for XYZ reason. But it does feel like it's not the first time, maybe like the second or third time that Biden's done something that has sort of like been a fuck you to the DNC, has been a fuck you to his populace and his base. He's broken promises. It doesn't look good for his legacy. I just think that it's not a good choice.
Okay. Hutch, you ready?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get your thoughts, and then we'll open this up and get to talking of, is this a waste of time? Go ahead.
I'll keep it concise because I'm sure we're going to get into the particulars when we get into the actual debate. But all things being equal, I would listen to an argument against this action that he took. But we just don't live in that world. I can't possibly be made to give a fuck about this. I mean, in the face of everything that Trump did his first term and everything he's certain to do in his second term, it's difficult for me to take seriously the idea that we should be lectured about norms from MAGA Republicans right now. And so, yeah, I'd be happy to get into the specifics in the actual debate.
And with that, let's open it up. I think Destiny said something that I'm curious if everyone else feels the same way. And correct me if I'm wrong, you're right here, but you said something to the effect of this argument is not something we should be having because Republicans would never hold their side to this standard. So why are we trying to fight with one hand tied behind our back, basically? Is that kind of like the gist? the argument here?
My gist is I want to hear a defense for the pardon of Roger Stone, and if they can't provide a cogent defense for that, they should never talk about anything having to do with law and order, because it's a farce.
Okay, but we do recognize the fact that not every Republican is a MAGA Republican, right?
Did they vote for Trump? Then they're a MAGA
Okay.
Republican. That's all that matters. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you say or do. It matters who you vote for.
Wait, so is there no reason to push back against bad things that are done on our side if we just accept that the things that they're doing are worse?
No. I want to hear a defense of Roger Stone, and then we can talk about pardons in general.
Yeah, I'm not
or we can
defending
talk
Roger
about-
Stone.
Okay. Then-
that makes
That's not
sense. That makes sense if they're a Republican and they defend the Roger Stone. We're not gonna. If you're a Democrat or if you're a normal person, if you're not a Trump voter, and you're criticizing this, you would agree that stands to reason. You don't need to like defend the Roger Stone allegation for that, right?
If you're a Democrat and you want to talk about it, you can. I don't know why you would publicly, though, because then we would have to move on to the next point of why is the pardon even corrupt or bad? What is the bad thing about pardoning somebody? Like, should a president not have the ability to pardon? Is that a power that we're against, or are we only against it when Democrats do it?
I oppose both the case that you just said of Roger Stone, and I also oppose this case, because I think both of these are individually corrupt. That's different than saying that
Sure. What is the? If you want to, okay, sure. So there's no MAGA person here that will defend any of Trump's pardons, which is good because you shouldn't, because that is actual corruption. We all agree that the Hunter Biden pardon, even if we were to argue it's corrupt, which is an insane argument, we'll get to that. Is it anywhere remotely close to just the pardon alone of Roger Stone?
I would literally have to look that shit up, but I'm assuming that there's plenty of like. So, for instance, I've been seeing this all day on Twitter. Right, here are 114 of Trump's former pardons, and they literally show that they did a 4473 violation for some random hip hop artist. They show that who is it? Jared Kushner's dad got pardoned for like tax evasion in 2006.
Whatever you're reading, that sounds like a real good tweet. Whoever made that tweet, that was a real good tweet. Yes.
Real quick. I just want to share. I'm working on getting a headphone right now, so if you talk over me, there's probably going to be an echo. So I just want to get that out there. So I'm working on the headset.
Okay.
But that's why you're not going to find me going like, oh yeah, like the Republicans, they would never do this. Like obviously they're sweeping for this shit, right? And on top of that, but here's my problem. My problem is that the general election, a lot of Democrats are flagellating themselves like, oh, this is a total repudiation of the democratic norms and the Republican system and the rule of law. And it's like, bitch, you lost by 1.5%. It's almost nothing. It's almost negligible. So that means that everything counts. And if everything counts, then when you're like handing the opposition a W, even if it's a 0.01% W, you're giving away ground that you don't need to give away.
Who's changing their mind about anything based on this? Like, what is the health of the country?
In the last 30 days of the election, we were all hoping that a comedian talking shit about Puerto Ricans was going to be the thing that tipped the balance of the election. So everything counts.
Well, isn't that crazy? I love that you brought that up as an example. Isn't that crazy that the Democrats really wanted people to care about the racist jokes, but nobody gave a fuck? But when the Republicans really want us to care about the pardon of Hunter Biden's son, who is clearly the victim of a highly politicized prosecution, now all of a sudden we've got to change our behavior? Why are we granted that? Why don't the Republicans have to stop and consider, wait, maybe we shouldn't have these jokes and maybe we shouldn't have these people? Why do they set the tone on both sides?
Wait, so hold on.
Because whenever a tone change happens from them, people on the opposite side move to whatever they're doing. How is what you're proposing any different?
I don't know that. Wait, can you say that again? What was
moving
that?
to their tone change.
No. They're the ones who get to set the tone both times. We don't get to set the tone, ever. We say, hey, racist jokes at that thing are probably not good. And they're like, it's just jokes, bro. Who cares? And then they get record turnout in Hispanic votes. So
that changes it on their side, but not ours. If we concede to it, then it changes on both.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, yeah, like counterpoints when you try talking and someone else is talking, it's just chaos. So let's try to go like one at a time. No, it's all good. But no, can you repeat that, Tuna, just so I can hear it?
Yeah, the Republicans don't feel beholden to our values. That's obvious.
Then why do we let them attack us with
beholden to our values? We just bend over to whatever they do, whatever the state of affair and how they decide to conduct themselves. Then we are controlled by how they set the sort of status quo of what a politician can